how to deliver our project uh, um, appropriately to allow us to work as our own contractors and allow us not to have to need support from GCs or tier ones to deliver these opportunities so we can win them ourselves. And so what I'm trying to do is hope that there's many more agencies like Metro that create these small business set asides and then create the opportunities within those agencies to put those out for us to be able to be competitive. And it's okay if we're competitive amongst each other, but it's not okay if all of a sudden now we're at a federal project that's requiring small business participation, but I got to compete with a Griffith, or I got to compete with a Doty Brothers, or I have to compete with a WA Rassick, or I have to compete with these bigger tier ones that there is no way I can compete with because they operate completely different than the way a small business does. And so, how do we figure out the workers' comp portion? How do we figure out the insurance parts of it? And that's where you've always been incredibly helpful, Rocio, to help us with those things and how we can lower our EMRs or get an EMR. Because a lot of times as small businesses, we're not required to have an EMR. But when we do get into these positions where these carving out situations, we are going to need an EMR. We are going to need bonding insurance. We are going to need to find ways to make ourselves viable for that opportunity. So that's capacity building. And how do we do that? And we do have to do that by providing better understanding and providing those avenues to our small business community to do so.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to compliance requirements and all of that, I would assume you would abide by the rules, which is everybody has, carry their own bond, their own insurance, and all of that, just because the risk is the same, right? You're going to do the same work as anyone else. And if you make a mistake, don't complete it, you're liable for it. But to your point, saying that you're competing with, these large businesses, I'm just asking because obviously I don't bid, I don't go into, uh, Planet Bids or see any of that. But are these larger companies? Are you saying like you guys are? Because I would assume that these large companies don't bid on the smaller jobs as the smaller guys because obviously like it's just too small for them.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Rocio, because what we do find ourselves is that larger companies are severing away from that and creating smaller companies, small businesses within their own companies to be able to compete with us, and that's always been a huge issue. So that's happening right now as larger companies. Remember, at the end of the day, they're about the final dollar. They're about their bottom line. So by creating smaller entities within that industry, they now can be competitive with us. And because they have that financial backing, it doesn't even create an equality. It doesn't create a platform that allows us all to compete at the same level. So that's why having these smaller opportunities for the small businesses is crucial, and there must be guidelines within that as well. But a lot of the larger companies are creating smaller companies so that they can maintain a revenue in that industry. So that's a big fear, and that's always been the issue, and that's why the SBE program the DBE program was created to allow there to be equality. Look, at the end of the day, back in the day when you could have a guy who had a wife or something like that, and even then that was a big fear that I'll put this company in my wife's name, and then I'll just say it's a woman-owned company, and all of a sudden, you fall under that DBE criteria. So, is there a way to deal with that? Unfortunately, that's a very difficult thing to prove, and that's a very difficult thing to contend with. But the reality is, you're going to contend with it. So find that right situation for you. So be picky, be choosy, and make certain that you understand what you're getting yourself into, especially when you're bidding. Especially when you're bidding. Bidding is something that large companies have staff. That's all they do all day long. They have non-billable individuals. But with small companies, look at me. I'm over here. I deal with payroll. I deal with hours. I deal with, you know, everything from equipment, material, and labor. And then at the same time, I'm seeking and pursuing and bidding opportunities. It's a lot of hats to wear. But so that's why we have to be picky and we have to understand what we're getting ourselves into. And once we win that job, that's a whole new other, conversation. How am I going to make certain that I deliver that with the cost and understand the changes that come through a job? Change orders are a big part of that. We leave so many dollars on the table because we don't know how to address change orders, and that's another conversation.
Well, let's talk about a little bit because everybody deals with change orders. I mean, everybody knows that construction never flows as the way it is, right? There's always you have. I mean, construction is risk management itself, right? Because you are managing people, you're managing the schedule that they gave you, you're managing the general contractor, you're managing all these little things, and with that along, everybody knows that you are going to have hiccups around, along the way, and design and error issues. It's all the time. I mean, this is exactly why contractors and engineers are always like this. It's just the way it is.
Well,
so by saying change orders,
but you have to understand what's a billable change order and what's not.
Go ahead.
And not having that understanding is where we fall into a lot of trouble. So the document review in the beginning is so crucial to taking on an opportunity. Understand what's there, everything from a soils report to speculations of product. Those are all things that are so crucial to you to have a proper understanding and a proper bidding process. If they're telling you that you're going to need to have these steel beams, well, understand what kind of beam, understand what kind of makeup and composite of that mill cert that it should be, understand what those specs are on that beam, so that you're not finding a $50 beam, I'm just using that as a number, and really are required to put a $100 beam on there. That could just bust your whole cost. Now, if all of a sudden it's not being specific and you bring this and they say, no, we wanted this $100 beam, but it's not on your specs, that's a change order. So it's they say the devil is in the details. You have to understand the details. Details are so crucial to the proper delivery. And 9 out of 10 times it's in there, but we miss it. And then all of a sudden we want to claim a change order. Look, is it hard? Absolutely. And that's why we have to have, we don't want to just have a bunch of hats. We want to make sure all the hats that we have fit. You get me? And that's what makes it a very, very challenging thing to be a small business, because we don't have the staff and or the manpower to be able, in a lot of cases, to challenge, difficulties that come across in the field.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So you make sure to keep record of that. But I also think that you guys also face the battle of, will this change order be approved? Because now that's a different battle between you and the GC. Because oftentimes what I've noticed from talking with contractors and clients itself is that they approve a change order verbally, but they never got it done through documentation. And then they sometimes end up doing the work, and the next thing you know, they don't end up getting paid because there was no documentation.
And I'm guilty of that. I am
compensation behind it.
completely guilty of it. That's happened to me before, and it was incredibly costly, incredibly costly. So no one is exempt from those challenges or those mishaps. Case in point, and with all fairness, I want everybody to know because I have to disclose. I want to disclose this. Rosillo's helped me with a lot of my insurance issues that I've had. And Rosillo, remember that opportunity I got at the airport, and it was just a little minor change in that phrase that almost that we had to correct in order for me to get insured and be able to be on that project. So there's challenges in every aspect of a project. It could be from your administrative side to the operation side to the labor side. So, and those are, like I said, the devil is in those details, and we have to be aware of those details.
100%. Then we have to meet Watts over here saying documentation is key to everything. There they also commented saying true, true. And he was, pretty sure he was saying true to what we were just saying. But hey, Al, so we're almost close to the 55-minute mark. Is there anything else you would like to give to the audience before the call?
I want to encourage every DBE that is here on this on listening to this conversation. Do not give up on your recertification. It is so important. The DBE program was part of the 1965 civil rights movement, and the reality is that we cannot go back in time. The civil rights movement is what gave us opportunities to be, part of society, and gave us opportunity to create equality. And by you not certifying, we are setting back our society 30 years, 40 years back into the past, and we can't allow that to happen. You have to continue to fight for this program. You have to continue to be part of this, and then you have to be out there. I don't care if you don't come and join the fight with me, because I will be there whether you're there or not. But if you do, share with your politicians, share with your local politicians, and say, hey, we want small business programs. We need small business programs in whatever city that you are, so that we can continue to be independent, to continue to be sovereign business owners, and we can continue to have these opportunities fall on our laps, and fight for these opportunities that we are so deserving of. Look, if you want to work for big business, work for big business. But if you enjoy working for yourself, make certain that those opportunities are there for you and for all of us. Because at the end of the day, I'll be in that front line, I promise you, and with or without you, but I'd rather do it with you than without you. So that's all I can say. Thank you so much for allowing me to take 45 minutes of your life, and I can't thank you enough for the support you give me. If you're interested in being part of NHCA and what we are as a membership, I'm not going to invite you to a gala.
It was
it's
55 minutes, but I do want to take the time to.
Thank you.
You're so funny.
Hello? Do I hang up?
No, I'm just saying to take this time to thank our audience, our audience. We love comments. Obviously, we appreciate your support. And if there's any comments, this video will be available on LinkedIn, and it'll also be uploaded on YouTube and shared on my other social media, so we can connect with contractors across the state and nation. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your opinion and support, because obviously you are boots on the ground, and you've always been an advocate for smaller businesses. That's actually how we met. We met through a networking event that you first held back in, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. And from there, I got connected with other smaller businesses that all said, hey, you know, when I was having this issue, Al went up there and advocated for me. Al was in the battlefield with me. He knows exactly what went on, and I appreciate him because I know when he talks, he means it. So I appreciate you. And also the fact pretty much died and came back alive. So, you know, we're very grateful to have you here. And big shout out to San Antonio Hospital that helped get this man back on his feet. And I don't know your doctor's name, the man that saved you at the gym, but I also would like to give him a shout out.
Well, I'm going to be at San Antonio Hospital tomorrow, and I'm going to tell my story. It's Heart Week awareness, and I'm going to tell my story, and it'll be there between 5:30 and 7:30. We're going to try to go ahead and put a little bit online. But yes, I am more convinced in what my life is about today, and I know that my life is about fighting for others and making certain that opportunities are given to all of us. So thank you so much. And I love you all. Please visit me on my site. Reach out if you're not connected. I'd love to know more about you. Thank you all. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Bye.